Forsaken's favorite creation of hatred, 1x1x1x1, is one of the most fun killers to play. However, it can be tough to pick up if you don't know what you're doing. So in this video, I'm going over everything you'll need to know about using 1x, his abilities, how to use them, plus some key strategies and matchups to look out for. Let's get into the video.
1x basics.
1x is not a straightforward killer to learn. There's a lot to pick up and a fair amount of practice ahead of you. It is one of the worst sprint speeds for a killer in Forsaken at a measly 27, so if you haven't learned to manage your stamina, I suggest you learn how to quickly, because 1x demands some competency in that department to get anywhere. That being said, your horrible sprint speed is made up for by the fact that 1x has a couple of ranged tools in its kit, so add learning how to aim with shift lock onto the list too. Now, 1x is not entirely ranged, it does have a proper M1, so let's work our way into discussing 1x's abilities and start off with that. Slash is 1x's M1, dealing 20 damage on hit after a 0.3 second windup. It'll also apply glitched 1 and poisoned 1 for 5 seconds to any one hit. After using Slash, it'll go on cooldown for 1.75 seconds. If you're close enough to a survivor, use Slash. It's not that hard. You're going to want to quickly adapt to survivors that juke your M1s, so keep a mental note of how they do it so you can then counter it in some way. Big damage. On use after a 1.7 second windup, you'll fire off a large projectile in a straight line. During this windup, a loud audio cue will play for all players within 400 studs of the killer. Survivors hit by this projectile will take 35 damage and get inflicted with glitched 1 for 5 seconds, and poisoned 1 for 5 seconds, for a total of 43 damage. However, that's not all, because this attack also has a second hitbox for anyone close enough to 1x when the projectile is fired. Survivors close to 1x while the projectile is fired will take another 28 damage, and the status effects will be replaced by glitched 2 for 6 seconds and poisoned 5 for 3 seconds, for a total of 75 damage. Yes, this means a chance that low-rolled their max health can instantly die to an up-close mass infection. After using mass infection, it'll go on cooldown for 14 seconds. There are so many great ways to use mass infection, and there are so many bad ways to use mass infection. We have a lot to unpack. A very common usage of mass infection is on a survivor who got hit by Entanglement as a follow-up, although do note that if they escape it early, you'll have to actually aim the projectile. The best way to ensure you're still in an advantageous state during all of this is to block off the survivor's optimal path, so they're either forced to take the mass infection or put themselves in a worse position by dodging it. Now, while you can snipe players with this alongside Unstable Eye, you need to keep in mind that more or less everybody is going to know what you're doing because of the wind-up sound and probably move away from their current location. This is also a really good move to catch careless players, although I'm pretty sure anyone can realize that. Guest mains will sometimes try to go behind you while you're winding up to block the melee hitbox of mass infection for a free punch. Now, if they do this, you're basically getting stunned, but you can still punish this to an extent by turning around and then lobbing the projectile at them. You'll still get stunned, but they'll get a face full of 43 damage in the process. Mass infection is great on maps with very little elevation and abysmal in maps with a lot of it, so 1x's overall effectiveness on a map is usually dictated by set amount of elevation, as you'll see in the strategy section. While mass infection can be dodged, if you're one of the 94% of my viewers who aren't subscribed, you cannot dodge me asking you to subscribe. So, if you're enjoying the content, consider subscribing. A move that solves a lot of headaches when playing 1x. On use, after a 0.75 second windup, you'll throw your swords in a straight line. If the swords hit a survivor, 1x will gain a speed 2 boost for 3 seconds, and have the survivor's aura revealed to them for 2 seconds. Meanwhile, the survivor will take 10 damage and be inflicted with 10 seconds of helpless and slowness 10 for 3 seconds. However, the survivor can escape the slowness early by playing a where they click a group of boxes on their screen after completing the the survivor will gain speed 1 for 1.25 seconds, meaning if they theoretically completed the fast enough, they could get away before you even reach them. After using Entanglement, it'll go on cooldown for 18 seconds. This right here, this is the ability that defines 1x. When running 1x, try and establish a brief survivor profile for everyone, so you'll know if they'll need extra effort to land an Entanglement. If they don't know how to juke, prefer to run in a straight line, or aren't aware that Masterclass in Mediocrity is a video series, you can probably just throw off the Entanglement and they'll easily get hit by it, no problem. If your target seems to have some experience behind them, you'll either need to get creative or predict their movement. Another important tidbit about using Entanglement is taking into consideration how much stamina you have when you use it. 1x is one of the slowest killers in the game, and you want to make the most out of that 3-second speed boost to make up for that. The Entanglement speed boost means nothing if you're at a lack of stamina when you receive it, so you want to make sure you have some stamina on the side when you throw off the ability. Also, I think it goes without saying, but Entanglement is really good when the survivor you're throwing it at is almost out or completely out of stamina, as they'll not really have an opportunity to avoid it.
Where are my ingredients?
Even to this day, we still do not know where 1x's ingredients are. Someone please help him. On use, after a 1.5 second windup, you'll gain a series of buffs and debuffs. During this windup, a loud audio cue will play for all players within 400 studs of the killer. 5 seconds of speed 1, 5 seconds of blindness 3, and all survivors will have their auras revealed for 7 seconds. After using Unstable Eye, it'll go on cooldown for 25 seconds. Despite this ability giving you a speed boost, I actually don't view this as a catch-up move for 1x. I see it more as a pre-chase ability where you use it before you start to chase to get the drop on survivors with an aura read and a speed boost. While yes, you can use it as a catch-up move, 1.5 seconds is a long wind-up time, and you're better off using Entanglement while actually in a chase, since it has much shorter windup. You can also pair this with either Entanglement or Mass Infection for some crazy snipes. But once again, there's an audio cue for everyone. The blindness shouldn't be too much of an issue if you somewhat know the map layouts. Don't get too careless.
Rejuvenate the Rotten.
An extremely good tool when... Hold on, I gotta go get some water. I'll be right back.
Ladies, gents, and minions wandering your corpse's parking spot. I am Shedletsky, and today we're cooking up something delicious in my restaurant that has definitely passed its math inspection. Rejuvenate the Rotten. After depositing 5 coins into your torso, all the innocents you have slaughtered will come back to help me find my ingredients. Normally, your minions have the IQ of a guest main, just wandering around aimlessly. However, once the survivor gets close enough, it'll rush them down, dealing chip damage on an attack. But that's not all, because with Chef Flying, things can always get where I'm being better for my customers. You can also sacrifice your minions by attacking them, and in doing so, you'll gain a short speed boost, resulting in the minions feeling a mass projection from dying, perfect for chasing down that stupid skateboarding robot. Unlike your other abilities, Peach needs time, and you should reserve Rejuvenate the Rotten for last man standing, or when the few survivors left are giving you a hard time to waste their stamina and give you a harder time looping, and a bunch of extra speed boosts for yourself.
This is the hardest skin to get in Forsaken. This is Martyr Flying, or as people like to call it, Gubby Flying.
Hey, what's that guy doing here? I thought that just a machine follower ocean skylight. Look what a mass perfection. Last time, Minion Flying, seize him. Anyways, that's all the time we have for today. Now go out there and cookie me a winner. Goodbye!
Alright, everyone's still here? Cool. Since I went away for a minute, I'll just keep things short for Rejuvenate the Rotten. The ability has an absurd cooldown, so realistically, you're only getting one use out of it per round. Try to keep it on standby for LMS, or in an emergency late in a match. Don't be afraid to sack your minions for a speed boost, but keep in mind that the minion speed boost doesn't stack anymore. Although you can stack it with Unstable Eye if you absolutely want. In the right scenario, a Rejuvenate the Rotten can lock down a match, so be patient and only use it when the time is right.
Strategy.
1x is a really weird killer to explain for a strategy section. Since you have a few ranged options that you can aim at anyone, you can really just pick and choose who you want to go after. Early in the round, you'll want to get a sense of each survivor's skill level and then adjust how you're chasing them down from that. If they aren't trying to juke you or anything, light work. If they're dodging your M1s and projectiles, you'll have to either show them something they aren't expecting, or pick up on their patterns if there's any. Do they have a specific direction they like to dodge in? Then keep that in mind. Another important piece of advice is that Entanglement is your best friend. While yes, freezing a survivor in their tracks is great in a chase, it also applies 10 whole seconds of helpless. And that's very useful against certain matchups like Guess 1337, N7, and especially Veeronica. Against Sentinels, 10 seconds of helpless means no stun abilities, allowing you to be way more aggressive against those survivors during that time frame. Above all else, a survivor on low stamina is a survivor extremely susceptible to your projectiles, as they're either forced to take the damage and effects, or evade the projectile and risk hitting 0 stamina, which will make their stamina regeneration be delayed by a bit, which you can then go and punish them for. Lastly, as said before, try and reserve Rejuvenate the Rotten for last man standing. You'll want the most value out of it, and you can always unstabilize right afterwards if you need to get the remaining survivor's location if they moved a lot. Because there aren't a bunch of special rounds to cover, Survivor and map matchups are now their own section. I don't think anybody will mind this. So, what are 1x's best and worst Survivor and map matchups? Surprisingly, I have the easiest Survivor matchup for 1x as Shedletsky, as ironically, 1x's kit completely counters Shedletsky's. Actually, think about it for a second. Fried Chicken's regeneration is negated by your DOT poison, and Slash is a melee range stun while you have ranged tools at your disposal. Plus, it's Shedletsky. He's going to slash his sharp sword, but always miss. Meanwhile, 1x's worst matchup is Veeronica. In other words, grass is green. Your projectiles mean nothing if the Veeronica can jump over them with a well-timed skate trick, and you have an abysmal sprint speed, so it's not like you're closing the gap on a skating Veeronica if your projectiles are on cooldown. Original character bias and balancing is truly a menace. 1x's best map is probably Horror Hotel. The map having barely any elevation present is going to be a big advantage to 1x and their projectiles. Now, it's not an insta-win if you get Horror Hotel as 1x, but you'll have an easier time trying to snipe people with Mass Infection or Entanglement if you do have this map on your side, and that matters a lot. Honorable mention to Underground War for being a close runner-up. Despite that map having 2 separate layers, those 2 layers are for the most part flat. The worst map to be on as 1x is probably Yorick's resting place, as all the elevation present can get in the way of your projectiles, and there's overall a lot of real estate to cover, quite literally because there's a mansion on the map. Brandon Works is a close runner-up due to one notable issue. Despite being relatively flat, save for the castle, you have horrible sprint speed, and that large mountain can be used to loop you for days. Me and my friends call it the Mountain of Pain due to how tough it can be to break a loop using it, potentially getting mopped the entire game or LMS. You'll need to land an Entanglement to stand a chance against the mop. If nothing else, 1x proves that you don't need a bunch of mobility to make a good killer, when range and prediction can be just as terrifying to go up against. A well-placed Entanglement can be extremely powerful in a chase, and a Mass Infection can punish anyone who has their guard down against you. Add in some competent stamina management, and you have a killer that can give most of the survivors a run for their money. Give 1x a try and let me know what you think in the comments. See ya.
We'll be right back.